Carol in the first half of the season. I want to go back to just a little bit the episode 2, the attack by the wolves, and that moment where Carol is just standing at the window and looks out and everything breaks loose there. But that moment where she's running around and trying to defend people and she breaks down, what was the main emotion for her behind that? Was she feeling guilt that these people were attacked after they had trusted her? Was she just feeling the loss of, she had finally kind of found a place where she could just be for a little bit? Carol lets her guard down, but...
Yeah, I think it's sort of a culmination of that and just all of that. There was this sense that community was going to happen again, that they're in a safe zone, that there's hope for normalcy and family and community and cookies and and then there's no safety, there's no guarantee for safety anymore, and also just what it takes, what's called on all of them to do to survive. It's so unnatural that when you get to that point when you're in a safe zone and you're not doing it for a while anymore, you feel normal again, and then it's quiet, except that seeps in what you've done, and then you have to process it and live with it and wrap your head around it and do it again. And it's realizing you're different. What do you do with that? I think it's just disappointing that it's not going to work out. The hope. There was hope.
Do you think that's why she has such an issue? She's the one who really takes on Morgan, because she would like what Morgan is saying to be true, but she knows it just isn't.
Which makes it hurt even more. It can't be that way. It's not that simple. It's complicated. Yeah, we would all like to not have to kill anyone or take another life, but our lives are threatened every single day. We all face it in a different way, but how did you survive and how did you get here? How did you get here? How have you been here this long? What have you done? Who's done it for you? You can say that, sure, but at some point, somebody had to bite them,
Thank you for not finishing that.
Yes. Well, so speaking of Morgan, there's a big kind of hole in Morgan's philosophy, in that when he was taught all of these things out in the woods by Eastman, they were alone. They were out in the woods. There weren't other people to protect. There weren't a lot of walkers. There certainly weren't a pit full of walkers after them. Is Morgan going to realize at some point the kind of flaw in his thinking?
Well, the thing that one of the things I like about what we crafted is even we see in episode 7 that Morgan is not certain about this. Like, oh, this is exactly the philosophy that everybody has to have. It's more like, this is the philosophy that helped me. This is the philosophy I want to be true. I need it to be true. But you can see the conflict within him. And similarly with Carol, she didn't kill Morgan. She could have just killed Morgan. She could have just killed the wolf. I'm sorry, like every time I say stuff like that, I'm like, wait, that was episode 8. Because I'm in the middle of finishing aspects of season 6. I'm working on aspects of season 7, so I have no idea where I am. But Carol isn't certain either. She would have killed them. They both know that they don't have the answer, but they both know that their experience has led them to this place in their philosophy. And they both hit upon each other's sensitivities. Carol is wildly pissed off at Morgan because she would love that to be true. But her experience has led her to do awful thing after awful thing after awful thing on behalf of others. She's sacrificed who she is completely to ensure people live. And this person to say like, oh, all life is precious. She's not happy about that. It is. I mean, Melissa said what I just said, like in 10 seconds. It's complicated. Like the Alec Baldwin, Meryl Streep film. It's exactly like that.
But don't you think that's what makes all the characters' conflicts so immediate and real? Because these extreme circumstances have led them each to completely believe that what they feel and what they believe is the right thing. That's why I think Glenn is so vehement about, look, we can give up everything except that thing. And that thing keeps floating, and changes. But and that's why when the characters, for me, I'm a fan of the show before I was on the show, the character conflict is what I was most excited about. And to see Rick feel so strongly about something and argue it to Michonne, and Michonne hit him in the face with something that's so, well, a rock, or a theory, that is so diametrically opposed to what you believe. I mean, that's what makes you think about the show, sort of, and reflect it and sort of apply it to life, and sort of how we feel about things and how we move through life. But the circumstances and the stakes are so high for each of these characters. I love watching Carol. Not you.
I often see Michael just watching Melissa around the C-stand. It disturbs me.
Josh gave me this scarf.
Mike was the one that put the microchips everywhere.
Well, Stephen, touching on what Michael said, Glenn has had this philosophy himself about continuing to reach out to people. We saw him do it obviously with Nicholas. Didn't work out well, although ultimately it did, so Glenn lives. Again, I'm gonna say that. But then we saw him pretty immediately bond with Enid, which might have, maybe he wouldn't have done that. That's a way that character could have gone. But do you think that still somewhere down the line, in the second half of the season, that experience with Nicholas is going to catch up with him? Is it going to somehow change how willing he is to just help anyone?
I think Glenn surveys every situation and kind of makes a decision based on what he sees, as opposed to a blanket coverage of one particular agenda. But I think where he does lean is to see the possible potential and good in every single person. You can extend it that way, but you can also look inward and say, why would Glenn risk life and limb, risk the potential of not having his kid not having a father figure? Why would he risk all that for these people? And it comes down to, I think, he's trying to preserve a part of himself that he wants to pass on as a lasting legacy that may be a future spark, a spark for the future. That it's not as nihilistic as everybody kind of sometimes approaches it to be. Rather, Glenn has survived this long without killing somebody. He's survived this long helping people. He's survived this long caring for people. And that's something that he's learned from, Maggie. He's learned from Herschel. He's learned from Dale. Every person that's come before him has kind of pushed him into this trajectory. And I think what's cool about Glenn, where we find him in the last couple seasons, is that he's no longer solely just an influenceable person. That's a word. Rather, he's able to discern for himself and say, I see what you're about. I like that aspect. I'm going to take that. But I don't like that aspect, and I'm going to reject that. And what you see here is, the push to save Enid is a push to say, if I don't save you here, how can I look at my kid and say, I did the things that I'm supposed to do? How can I look at my kid and say, like, this is how you're supposed to live life when I didn't do it myself? So, yeah, it's cool. I love it. You know, what you were just saying is like, you know, I know there's the foil of Morgan to Carol, but there's also this beauty in the sense that Carol and Glenn have floated around each other the entire time and developed these very different philosophies on how to survive. And both are effective, but they're also so counterintuitive to each other. Or maybe the perfect yin to the yang. And that's what's so interesting about the show, like you said, is that, you know, people's survival on this show has to do with the fact that they were lucky enough to meet each other. And I think Glenn is aware of that. And when he sees potential in someone, that's another cog in this machine that can help everybody survive.
That's something I think another